Hi everybody, welcome to Magic Gardens. My name is Chelsea Lester. I'm the exhibition manager here, so I curated this amazing exhibition with works by Zeinab Diomande. This exhibition is titled Wildest Dreams, and it explores Zeinab's journey with Black womanhood through these beautiful self-portraits, but also shared experiences as a Black woman. In this exhibition, you'll see tons of incredible self-portraits with inventive materials, patterns, and designs that you'll see throughout each work, but also throughout the exhibition design that speak to Zeinab's experiences, childhood, and entire journey. Zeinab is Philadelphia-based, just graduated from UArts, so and is from the Ivory Coast. And Zeinab's also shown all around the country, but this is her first solo show in Philadelphia, so we're so happy to have her. And with this tour talk, we'll go through, she'll talk about each piece. We'll have a Q&A at the end, but if you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask. Does anyone have any questions before we begin? Okay, let's get started. Thank you.
So thank you for coming to this talk. Really means a lot to me, and yeah, I cannot wait to dive in. So we're gonna start with this one. This one is called Stargazing. I remember making this piece at a time where I feel like I was looking for serenity, where I was looking for inner peace and just being in a space where I'm kind of away from everything. And that's what I've been doing here. As you can see, there's lily pads and this water. It's it feels like an isolated space. The sky is very calming, and the figure is just standing still and kind of basking in this entire environment, and just their art being, they just enjoy this moment and just want to be. And I think that's what I was also looking for, just this idea of being. Because I feel something that I talk a lot in my work is that Black women, femmes, and non-binaries, we're not allowed to be sometimes. Most of the time, actually, not even sometimes. Most of the time, we're not allowed to be. We always have to be in movement, action driven, the doer, the nurturer, all these things. And in most of my pieces, if not all of them, I just strive to make work where we can just be, where we can just take that minute to ourselves and be okay, I don't have to do anything right now, and this is it, this is the moment, I'm here, right now, I don't have to be anywhere else. And I feel that's exactly what I wanted to capture with this piece. So yeah. Moving on to the second one. This one is called Untitled Gossip. So this one is interesting, and I feel one of the more lighthearted ones, because I love a good kiki. I love it. But at the same time, you're not gonna kiki with me about my friends. So there's these two sides of me, one is more into that gossip kiki thing, and then you have the other part of me that's very easily annoyed by things like that. So that's kind of what I wanted to capture here. Very lighthearted, like I said, very fun, one of the more fun pieces that I made, I think, where I was having a hard time titling this one, because I was untitled, but also it's about gossip, so let's call this Untitled Gossip. Yes. So moving on to this wall, this piece is about metamorphosis. This piece, I started a series of paintings where I was obstructing the figure. I didn't start by obstructing the figure, it was more so there was a spider web on my forehead, and then there was a butterfly. I had wings in that piece, and then he ended with this one, with the actual stencil that I used to make the butterfly, obstructing the figure. So I was just thinking about what's the next step after this, this idea of metamorphosis, caterpillar that becomes this beautiful butterfly or moth. So that's I don't think there's much to say about this one. It's really this idea of metamorphosis, the end, like, and also beginning of something. So yeah. I will quickly move on to this one. This one is in French, which is my first language. It's called, I'm going to say it in French and I'm going to translate. This one is called Les pierres, les arbres, les murs racontent. And it translates to the rocks, walls, and trees can tell. Okay, so this one, I was just thinking about the idea of retreat. Just retreating. It was the end of the semester. I was tired. I was exhausted. I just wanted to like take some time for myself where I could just be somewhere where nobody can see me, nobody can hear me, no one talks to me. Like just in a space where with the things that bring me comfort, and the things that bring me comfort are my cats. So just being with my cats, I just needed that moment, that minute to just think about everything that's happened during the semester and like in my life in general. And also as that time was like leading to my thesis, just taking a second to, you know, again, be. So yeah, and the bows in this piece, like I've been using a lot of bows because I've been actually wearing bows when I had my little afro. I used to wear bows in them, and I was like that, because like how I like to see my figures is like they're me, they have a part of me, but they don't necessarily represent everything that I am. I like to represent the staging and performances because I feel like they live in these worlds that don't look like the world I live in. So depending on the color, like they just like evoke like different sides of me and like, or like different sides that I wish I was, like things like that. So yeah, it's me and my cat. Thank you. So this one is called My Heart is Expensive, and I think I was thinking about like the idea of like the heart as like this like very like precious thing. Please do not hurt me, thank you, kind of thing. And I decided to represent like the heart as like a star glitter in it because I think I really think of like stars as like, I wish my heart was a star, I'm not even gonna lie to you. So I kind of like think of stars like this very fragile thing, like this like, if it was like something tangible, like it would be like something made out of glass. And that's kind of like how I like to think about like also like our little hearts as like Black women and femmes, like, you know, because like we're always like, oh no, like we're like strong, like hearts is like, it's hard as rock, like we can do this, we can do that, like we're always on the go, but like the hearts are fragile organs, you know, they're in us, but they can give in at any time, so it's important to take care of them, so yeah. Moving on to this piece. This is so interesting because it was in Chelsea's like show about black hair, and I was so happy to have this one in there. Again, like I said, like in the hair, like you have this bow, and I used to wear a lot of bows in my hair, and I made sure here to like render the hair like with a little more detail than I would usually would. Here you have a gate. That's when I started like introducing the idea of like gates in my work. This idea of like guarding oneself and like protecting oneself, creating a barrier between the viewer and the figure. So, like I said, protecting the figure. But also I like to think as gates as like, there's still doors, you know? There are doors, you can open them, you can close them. They're like leading to like a certain pathway. So it's like, you don't quite have access to the figure, but at the same time, like, you could open these gates and like see what's inside, but here, since it is a 2D painting, there's no way you can open this, so it still creates like that barrier between you and the figure. So it's like, it's almost like saying like look, but don't look too close. Don't come too close. Like you can look, but you cannot come close. And then you have the orbs, you have the stars. Those are themes that appear a lot in my work more recently. I've been using them to kind of like, because I've been interested in like working with light and like how do I think about light. And when I think about it, I think about orbs, I think about stars, I think about all of these things that just like shine and like that you can like that illuminate and things like that. So yeah. Okay. Moving on to this one. This one is called Throwing the Dream Away, Keeping My Assertive Gaze. So for this one, I was playing with like light again. That's another piece where like light is the main focus. Because I was thinking about like, so this is my dream. This is like this thing, like this light that's in me that I'm like holding like that, but at the same time trying to throw away. Like, do I need to throw this away or do I need to keep it with me? So yeah, that's I guess that's about it for this one. But I wanted to talk about like technique and things like that. So I've used watered down acrylic to create like these like textures in the background. I love watering my acrylic down a lot because I feel like, I don't know, it just makes everything like look more dreamy instead of like when it's like solid like the face. So yeah, that's that. Okay. So this painting was more of an exercise. This one is called Side-Eye. I was like working, like I didn't have a lot of materials at that time and I was like, I'm gonna make a small painting. But at the same time, like I was just thinking about it and I was just thinking about how like, it's also another piece where it's like, look but don't look, like I don't want to look at you, like please do not bother me kind of thing. So I feel like the idea of like not being bothered is something that comes a lot in my pieces. Because I just feel like I said, like we're always like asked to like do things and like be there for other people, but sometimes we don't want to be bothered. We do not need that. Like we need that moment. We need that minute, we need that second, we need that like hour. Like we don't want to be bothered all the time. And I know that sometimes can come off as like blunt and like, oh yeah, like you're like the bold black woman. Like, okay, yes, and you know, I'm gonna bask in it. Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, that was about it for this one. And maybe we can move to the other room. So this one is called Trash and No Stars. Little reference to my favorite album by Sonic Youth. But at the same time, like I was thinking, as you can see, there's a lot of black, like the bottom half of the painting. And then when you go up, there's like thunder and like this like, it's kind of like very chaotic. And what I was thinking about this one, there's also a gate, sorry. There's also a gate and so what I was thinking about this one, especially with the expression on the figure's face, it's like someone who's like up to no good, a little mischievous. Because I remember when I was a kid, my grandma used to call me mischievous a lot. Because I feel like I was so noisy. Oh my god, I still am to some degree. So that's kind of like that, almost like contemplative, but also like, let me ponder my next move. Like, what am I gonna do next? Is it gonna be good? Is it gonna be bad? Guess we'll never know. But that's kind of what I was thinking about this one. Like, this one is another playful painting. So, yeah. So I'm going to move on to this one. This one is called Clown of the Star Meadow. So I wanted to make like a large scale like drawing. But at the same time, like, okay, one thing about me is that I'm obsessed with clowns. I have a whole collection of clown heads at my place. And I feel like that's something that I still haven't painted about, the fact that I love clowns, and if I could be a clown, I would. But originally for this painting, I don't know if you can see the texture underneath, there were like I was starting to paint flowers, but then I completely hated it because of the green against it, and then I went on with like spray paint and just like decided to like spray the entire like top part. But then was thinking about adding stars in place of flowers, so like clown with a star meadow. Also, something that sometimes shows up in my work are crows, because I feel like crows are just like such overlooked like creatures, like little birds, but they're extremely intelligent, and it's just such a shame that like there isn't more representation of them, like, and it's always like in a negative light, and I feel like that's, like I said, that's unfortunate. And I was just thinking again, like, because I remember, for example, like in 2020, like with like all the events that happened, which were pretty terrible, the light was more casted on like black men, and black women were just like more like in the back. Although we're still talking about them, but we're still kind of like in the back, which is something that I've noticed. And I was just thinking about like the crow as like a metaphor, like, you know, this bird that's like kind of like overlooked and like that nobody really pays attention to. But, you know, although we pay attention to it, but like not in necessarily a positive light. So that's kind of what I wanted to like have as a metaphor. So moving on to this one. This one is called Nothing Stands Between Women is Light. I was thinking about the idea of like wash day, like washing your hair, like when you're black, because when I was a kid, it was always a kitchen sink. And I just remember like how much like it was such like it was a whole day thing. Like we'll be washing my hair like very thoroughly, and like my mom's doing it for the most part. But I was thinking about that, and I was like, why not making this a whole thing and having like very long hair, like being like in the river, like in the woods, like just making the idea of like wash day like a whole concept, like a whole like reimagining this idea. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So now this painting was done in multiple steps, because I remember starting this painting, and then I had a show in Chicago that I went to, and at the time when I was starting this painting, I was in the middle of a burnout, and I just needed like to be away from Philadelphia, really, to just be away from like my little routine, like the things that I was doing. I just needed to go. So I went to Chicago, and I met one of my friends that I had never met in person. We've been talking this entire time online, and we've been going places. I've seen a lot of like parks, I've seen a lot of plants, different kind of plants like flowers and things like that. And when I came back to Philly, I knew exactly what I was headed with this painting. And this painting is called Self-Soothing. As you can tell, there's like two figures like embracing each other, reassuring each other, being here for each other. And I feel like at that point, like I had that like inner reassurance. I had that inner peace for myself. And I was like, okay, that's okay. Like I'm going to pat myself on the back. I'm going to like, you know, like hug myself. I'm going to be here for myself. Like, so like, and then I was also exploring this idea of like time passing. As you can see, there's like a cowboy in the background. And I like to think of cowboys as like nomads, like people that just like, they don't have the same sense of time that we have, because they're always going from one place to the other, but never really staying in one place. So here it kind of creates like this idea of like an endless time, like a time with like no beginning and no end. But at the same time, we have the figures like here in this moment. And that's also the first time that I experimented with like sequins. I thought that would be an interesting touch for like the idea of like framing my work, and also like incorporating them on like the clothing and such. So, alright, this one. I'm gonna start with this one actually. This one is called Love You, See You at 7. I was just thinking about how, as a kid, like we had these neighbors. They were all little kids like us, and they were just like, we would just like be playing all afternoon, and then it was time to go home, and then it was just a little sad to just like part ways because we didn't know when we would see each other again, if we would see each other again. So it's like almost like me like at their gate, like being like, all right, bye, see you tomorrow. But with like that smile, but also those tears, like because like I said, the uncertainty of things. So yeah, one of my little characters, because I've mentioned that somewhere before, I forget where, but so when I make a drawing or a painting, I like to think about where I was when I was a kid, like where I was mentally, what I wanted, like things that I didn't have. And I know that I took refuge a lot in like the imaginary, like cartoons and like, you know, how do you call these things? Books, like children's books and things like that. So like having those like little characters like just remind me of like all those like worlds that I used to make in my head, like to just pass time, but also to like run away a little bit from the situation at home. So yeah, this one, I love this one with my entire heart. This one is called, and all of a sudden this wormhole becomes down home. So for this one, I made that in my junior year, the last semester of my junior year, and I think to this day this is the result of everything you see today. This painting just opened up like a new era of like my work and like how I think about it, how I approach it, how I experiment with materials. For example, like I use paint directly from the tube to make these long textures, like here, and so this painting was also made at a time where I wasn't feeling too well. I was dealing with a little bit of an eating disorder. So I've been writing like I've been eating more and feeling better. So that was like kind of like that reassurance that I was gonna do okay. I was gonna be okay. And it's the figure is lounging in this like room that's not quite a room because the background doesn't make sense as usual. But then you also have like this little playful moments with like the little star character. I used to call him Starman. And then you have my cat Rusty, who is a caterpillar almost. And then, so those cans were kind of like what led to the painting, like because I've been cutting the stars and then put them in this can and then put my face in there and put my cat's paws in there. And I'm not someone who sketches like that. I started recently trying to sketch a little bit, but I don't really make sketches. I like writing or like experimenting with things until they lead to a painting. So yeah, that's that with this painting. That's definitely a self-portrait, maybe one of my more personal pieces, which is why this one is absolutely not for sale. I've spent like 2 years with this painting, and I plan on spending more until I feel ready to let it go. But for now, I'm not in that place, so I'm not gonna let it go. Then you have this one. This one is called The Way I Want It. If you know the MF Doom song, I'm not gonna say it's a swear word. Anyways, so with this painting, it's another like the theme of like lounging, like after a long day, like being on your phone. Like I was just thinking about how much I spend time on my phone and how bad it is. Like I think this is definitely a Gen Z thing, which is so bad. But I'm just always constantly on my phone, like, and it doesn't make me feel good all the time because I'm trying to be more mindful of like my screen time and also the content that I consume, the things that I interact with. So that's kind of like the main theme of this piece. And then you have another game. But this time in the background. So it's like this time I'm letting you in instead of like having you like blocking the way. Alright, we can go to this room. This is one of the more intimate rooms of like the entire exhibition. Not only is it a smaller room, but like the works that are here are just like, there's more like, they're more emotion like focused. Like, for example, like I'm going to start with this one. This one is called Salt Tears. This one I was just like, I was in a weird place and I was just also trying to dive back into like oil pastel drawings because up until 2021 I was drawing. I was making oil pastel drawings. So this one is also like, at the same time it's like a little exercise for me to like dive back into a medium that I haven't like used in a while and see where I'm at and like how it makes sense with what I'm doing now. So that's a little bit about this one. Then you have this one. This one is called The Strange Sense of Nothingness. This was interesting because it was made in July and it was at a time where I had an experience that I've never really had before. I've basically, it was almost like an out-of-body experience. I was here, but there was something in me that wasn't here anymore. I felt like something in me had died at that point. And it was just like a lot of like me being in bed and like just feeling nothing at all, feeling nothing. And in general, like I'm very good at like, you know, pinpointing like what I'm feeling, but at that point I was just not feeling anything. And that's never a good place to be. That was alarming to me because I was like, I'm not feeling anything and I don't like that. So it's kind of like this figure is like floating almost, so like they're there, but like nothing is really happening. They're just in that space, that like almost like formless void, and not really knowing what to do, feeling stuck, not really knowing what the next move is gonna be, and not really worrying about it really, trying to figure out what's happening to them right now. So yeah, this one is another lighthearted piece. It's called Why Are the Long Face, You Are the Function. You know, sometimes you go to a function, you go somewhere, you're trying to sense the vibes, and then you're like, oh, okay, I think I'm gonna go home. Or you're just like sitting there, like everybody's having fun around you, and you're like, I don't think I'm in my element here, so I'm also gonna go home. It's the main thing is like just not being somewhere where you just like feel that you belong, like being like out of place almost. Not really enjoying yourself, like, and that's okay. Like I feel like I've been there, a lot of people have been there, so it's like, and I feel like I also wanted to paint like things other than like what is expected for like Black women and femmes and non-binaries all the time, because we're always like associated with like certain types of feelings, but like it almost strips away our humanity and the fact that we're like, we have a range of emotions that we feel that everybody else feels too. So having something like this is like, hey, like little reminder, I'm just like you, I'm human too. So, and I feel those things that you feel. And I also go out and I have fun and I do this and I do that. Like it's, yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to like have here. Then you have this piece. This piece is called Whose Gaze Is It? I've given a talk about this one before. It was so interesting to have like everybody's perspective. So this one, it's like, it's an interplay between like the viewer and also the figure. Who's looking at who? Like whose gaze is it? Like, are you looking up at me? Am I looking down on you? Like, what are we doing here? What's our relationship here? So that's kind of like what I was thinking. And also like, you have the gate, like it's very like sensitive like area, the breast. So it's like, also again, like don't come too close. Like I don't want you to come close to me. You have the, how do you call this? The expression on the face of the figure. It's like, am I menacing right now? Like, or is it another? Is it a projection? Like, are you projecting that I'm menacing? It could be my straight face. It could be my normal face. So yeah, that's again another like kind of like trying to like guard myself and like protection and this idea of the game, like I said. So and behind you is, I wanted to end with this one because this is the more like hopeful piece. You have these two figures like looking down on this thing. That could be a flower or something that they've never seen before, but they're still looking at it like they're kind of like, they're interested in it. They're like open to it. They're open to looking at it and finding out what it is. And for this one, I was thinking about hope. Like what's next, I don't know, but I know there's more out there for me, and there's more out there for all of us. You have, it's a night scene, so you have like this like big giant orb in the back. You have the stars, you have the bubbles, like it's very dreamy, like nighttime dream-like, like things like that. But the main focus is like these two figures looking at this thing here. Like what is it? Like, but I'm open to finding out what it is. I'm open to like the possibilities that this thing could like bring me. I'm open to like knowing more about it. So you have a little like SpongeBob reference. So yeah, and then you have my little animation. The animation was again, I love scanning things. And I just realized that I could put my face in a scanner and just like do that. So again, my cat's paws, like myself, and like I put some like star stickers in there. This one I feel like really taps into this idea of play, because like I said, as a kid I was heavily into cartoons, and like being able to make my own moving images is something that I know my inner child is gushing about. Like she is gushing, she is so happy about that, because we've like fantasized about being able to make things that move, that like are 2D but move, and being able to like teach myself how to animate things has been one of my biggest joys. When I'm not painting, I'm animating. So yeah, again, emphasis on play, emphasis on the moment, joy, like bothering my cat, and yeah, I guess this is it, and thank you for listening to me.
Does anyone have any questions to start us off? If not, I have a few. I'll do it.
Okay.
Yes, no, go ahead. No, please.
So I think I heard once or twice you talked about, some of these representing like the right all of us have to like show up as how we are, right? And the perceptions and reflections other people have, that's kind of on them. But I noticed that a lot of these, like the little smileys under the eyes, and so I didn't know if that related to like some kind of identity or like perception aspect of your work. So I was just curious about that detail.
So I forgot to go over that, thank you for mentioning it. So the smiley face, it's like, I don't know if you just noticed in my work, like all the figures have this straight face, and they're like almost like stoic, like just here. The smiley face is like almost to like remind myself that I don't have to take myself so seriously all the time. It's like, again, trying to incorporate play. So that's what it is.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course.
I have a question. It's regarding this painting here, My Heart is Expensive.
Yes.
I mentioned it earlier, but I really enjoy the frame that's on the piece, and I think it's the only one here that has a frame, and also like a glass covering over it. So my question, what's the relationship between this kind of furry, bright pink frame and the pink scene? I think, it's a beautiful combination of glass and warm.
Again, like, I think it really stems from the title itself, like My Heart is Expensive. I've always like, I feel like it's from like watching these things when I was a kid. Like I don't know if you watch High School Musical. Sharpie Evans, like she was always wearing fur, and I feel like in a lot fur is like this very like glamorous like material, like it's very fancy. It looks elegant. So I was just thinking about like going from the title, like just incorporating fur would be an interesting touch to just like emphasize like what the title means. So yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. I see like a lot of interest in, like you were saying, with that animation, 3D and 2D coming together. Like, how do you see 3D interacting with your art, or do you see technology or 3D modeling, animation, claymation? Like, where do you see it going in the future?
I feel like I want to have more like sculptural elements. Like when I think about 3D, I'm like, I still want to have that as like something that you can like touch, something tangible. So like I'm thinking about hopefully incorporating more like sculptural works, because sculpture is also something that I dabble in. And I feel like I haven't really had the opportunity to like showcase them like that. So hopefully in the near future, like there will be like more sculpture installations of my work that just go along with the piece. It could be like one piece that just like has the figure as a sculpture, so it's like a part of it. It's like an installation that goes with like the painting. So yeah.
That's dope.
Thank you.
I have a question about, similar to the frame question, but one thing I really love about your work is how you frame your figures with these other elements, whether it be like the flames or like the orbs. Can you talk a little bit about how framing, just framing in your work in general?
I just like the idea of like memory, like framing a memory, because the flames are just like, so a real flame, it's like this thing that just like, that you cannot quite touch because it will burn you. And it's also like this like amorphous like shape. So I like to think about like frames in my work and flames and orbs and things like this, these amorphous shapes, as like almost like framing a memory, like I said, like framing like something that you cannot quite access, that you just like, that lives in your head. So yeah, if that answers the question.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you've already talked about it, but like, what is the importance of the color red? Like, what does that speak to you? A lot of your figures have a skin tone that's different from a natural skin tone. What is the importance of having them have these kind of surreal skin tones?
I feel like I like to approach skin tones in my work as like a way to differentiate like the different figures in the work. Because for example, like red is like this more like outgoing personality, like something that I feel like I have in me, but I don't like to show often. And then you have, for example, like if I paint a figure blue, like it's a little cliche, but like having the blues, like, more like, the figure is generally gonna be more grounded and like more like a little more like, okay, like I'm here, I'm not feeling the best, but I'm here. And also like the orange figure is a figure that I started introducing a while ago that's generally going to be like in bed. It's a figure that's like lounging. It's a figure that's like, because I like to see orange as like, to me it's a very calming color, like an orangey, like yellow. So like kind of like it helps me like have structure in terms of like what my figures like represent in each of those works. So, yeah.
Is it safe to say that these multiple versions that reflect you are alter egos, or would you say they're reflective of different modes of emotions?
I think they're more so like alter egos. Although like they have attributes that I have, but they don't quite like represent who I am. Because like again, like the environments that I exist in are not environments that I personally like would fully relate to, because they don't exist. Like there aren't environments that I live in, like, so they don't reflect my reality. I like to, like I said earlier, I said that that I like to represent the staging and performances, and all I am is just like the person like making them like making their realities like happen and just like be something tangible. So yeah.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Can you talk about the process of working out like the design of the show, like the vinyl that you use and the painting the flames and things like that?
So painting the flames and using the vinyl and all of those elements that just like surround the works were definitely Chelsea's idea. Thank you, Chelsea. I think it was like also a way to like put this emphasis on like the immersiveness of my work, because you have all these environments, like, so it's like an environment within an environment. So I think it was really important to just like have like all these pieces like have a home almost, like frame them in like this environment and also like make them like a part of it. So I feel like, yeah, my works are just like very immersive, and like the space that they will live in like have to like also make sense for like them, because I don't know, I feel like they could make sense on white wall, but at the same time I feel like they're just so like, how do I say this, their own thing, that they also need to have like something that just like emphasizes that. Yeah.
I second that.
Mhm.
Definitely,
Mhm.
you know, we always change the walls and the paint and vinyl and everything for each exhibition.
Mhm.
So definitely working with Zeinab on this one, I knew that it had to be immersive because of these fantastic, safe worlds that she's creating in her work, and I wanted to take that into the space as much as possible. But there are also so many recognizable elements, like the way that she frames the work and the way that she, you know, adds these orbs and stars and like elements that really make you feel like you're in a dream, that I wanted to make sure that we could bring that into the space, because I feel like as a curator you can immediately see it in the work, that there needs to be an environment around it, especially because we're in an environment already.
Yes.
So that was really important to me, to make sure that her vision came through and that the work could feel like it's at home fully. So that's when we got the stars and the orbs and the flames, and you know, pulled out those really key elements and brought them into the work. Something we also talked about is focusing on primary colors, which I feel like that color scheme is so recognizable, and it also is like brings out youth and like all these childhood memories where you see like primary colors, whether it's in, you know, toys that you play with, or like fast food commercials, or like, you know, all these advertisements that you see growing up. I feel like that also brings in that nostalgia that you're finding in your work. So yeah, it was a collaboration, and you know, it was really great. So.
Can you talk about the process of titling?
The process of titling. Ooh, I love this question. So I've mentioned that earlier, but I do not sketch. I don't sketch very often, and I do a lot of writing. I think if I wasn't painting, if I wasn't animating, I would go to school for writing. And most of the time, like, my titles come from those writings. They come from like those little like moments of, you know, writing something in my notes, or like hearing something outside, or a conversation that I had, and then turning that into like a bunch of words. Like, almost, I don't like to call my words poetry, but because I don't think of myself as like a poet at all. But I just
Disagree.
That's okay. But I just, you know, I love writing, and I feel like most of the time, like, I write so much that I feel like it informs my paintings, it informs what I'm gonna make next. From something that I wrote, I can read it and I'm like, okay, I think I want to paint the theme of this thing, of all the words that I wrote. And generally, I'm gonna have a sentence from everything that I wrote that's gonna become the title. So that's how I title my work.
Do you see yourself using other figures in your work, or do you see the core of your work reflects from like this vision, like how you are like perceived in this like natural world, like using yourself to depict all these different modes and dreams and aspirations? How do you see that expanding to like a bigger, to represent something outside of yourself?
Definitely represent things outside of myself. I feel like when I started like making art, like I used to like depict like other people a lot. And then I just thought like, I don't know myself like that, I feel like I'm always trying to get to know like other things outside of myself, but I'm not really looking inward most of the time. I'm always like, oh, this person is interesting, that person is interesting, I want to draw them, I want to paint them. But then I was like, okay, pause, like, let's look at what's inside. And maybe after having a better understanding of that, maybe, who knows, down the line, maybe I can start again, like, getting to know other people better. But for now, the focus is definitely gonna, like, be that, like, inward, but also, it's not fully inward because, like I mentioned, like, for example, for my titles, like, I like conversations that I have with people and things like that, so it's like, it's not fully me, it's like little pieces of, like, everyone around me, so yeah.
That's really, like, as you were speaking, I just, like, thought about, like, how, like, your community, you're absorbing all of this, and then you're kind of fleshing it out through your work. And then also just, like, during the show's opening, you were saying, like, people will look at I looked at your work and was like, I see myself.
Yes.
So maybe you don't even necessarily have to have other people represented physically in your work to get that feeling of like relation and better understanding like the figure. How do you feel what is the importance of your work like displaying like all this like femininity and softness and vulnerability to like, how do you feel like that's important in like the art world right now? Because I feel like it's lacking severely, and I feel like your work is just so important to be seen and is so rare. Like, how do you feel, what is the importance of that into play of like society and like the importance of that?
I feel like in terms of the art world, there's always been this expectation, especially for like Black painters, to just paint about your trauma, like paint about your struggle. What if I want to paint about all the range of like emotions and like experiences that we have? It doesn't just have to be about the struggle, I'm so sad, like it doesn't just have to, there's a range, we have so many things that we feel and that we experience outside of trauma, outside of like sorrow, outside of all these things. And I feel like it's really important like to just like also depict like the fact that we don't want to be saviors. Like we have those moments too where we just want to like, we want to feel our emotions, like we need that. We need to have like an outlet to like feel our emotions, and that's how I see art for me. Like just all the things that I feel like I cannot say with words are the things that I paint. And I think that's important. That's just important that we just embrace everything that we like, that we feel, that, you know, other people around us feel too, and pour that into like an artwork. Because like something that I've had a conversation with a friend recently. There was a show that we were in together, and one of the creators was like, "Your hand is too much in this painting," and I was like, "Listen, like." Personally, I'm a sucker for strokes. A good old stroke. Like, I need a stroke in this painting. I need to see your hand in this. I need to know that a human made this. With real feelings, like real tangible human. Because something that I've noticed, like the trend right now is becoming those paintings that almost feel like, they feel computer-like. Like, I love digital art, but let it be digital. Like, you're either making a painting or you're making digital art. Don't try to like not have your hand in a painting, because at the end of the day, like that's the only way that we know that human made that. And it's just, I don't know, like people are becoming more and more detached from their work. And like, I don't know, like it's definitely not something that I want to do anytime soon, and not something that I will ever do, because I just feel like it's just so important to just, for people to know that you made this. Like it came from here, like it came from here, like you made that. So yeah.
I have I guess a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say I really do appreciate how willing you are at storytelling through all of your pieces as you're like walking us through. And I feel like it's a very valuable thing that you're able to express your emotions through these paintings and have so many people be able to relate to the themes and the topics that you're talking about. And then earlier you said that Black artists don't only have to talk about like their traumas. It could be happiness, sadness, anger, or whatever else. And I think you just did a really great job at embodying those emotions through the pieces, and it kind of in multiple layers, I guess. So yes, thank you for that.
Thank you for viewing. Thank you for you know, because I feel like the end goal really is like for other people to see themselves in those works, not just like seeing this and being like, oh, that's like, I don't know, a little uppity. No, you just like to paint yourself. Like, you know, I've heard that comment before, so here we are. But it just, like I said, like it just makes my heart like an inch bigger every time when people are like, hey, that's me. Hey, I see myself. Like I see myself in this specific emotion. Like I feel that. Like we all feel this. Like it just, because like I said, this is the goal. This is what I want. Like this is, I want the community to like see themselves in those works. Like in like all the different variations that we come in. Like I want to be able to speak on those like differences like as much as I can. Like it's always so beautiful when I'm able to like talk to people about my work and like hear also what they have to say about the work. It's it feels good. So again, yeah, thank you for viewing. Thank you for coming. Taking some time in your day to just like hear what I have to say. It just means so much, and yeah.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank